Hey everyone, and welcome to Deadlock Intel, your #1 source for all things Deadlock, Valve's newest 6v6 shooter. Make sure to subscribe for Deadlock updates, gameplay videos, breakdowns, streamer stories, and more. Of course, today we are running through the most recent patch notes. As a reminder, I don't cover every single note, especially all of those minor changes like different sound updates and slight graphic tweaks. These are just the major and more important ones in my opinion, so I will leave a link below to the entire thing. Let's get into it. Starting off strong with general changes, they added 6 new heroes to Hero Labs. Hero Labs is a new experimental hero matchmaking mode. The heroes are Holiday, Calico, Wrecker, Fathom, Viper, and Magician, which they note are all temporary names. The goal of this mode is to invite players so that they can help give hero design feedback while these heroes are currently in development. A lot of these models were already playable in the sandbox if you went through the console commands, so it's cool to see them implementing this in a way that puts people into matchmaking to test out these kits. They note that most heroes in this mode are going to have placeholder models, names, and effects, as well as sometimes having placeholder abilities from other heroes. Feedback on these heroes are going to be taken on the forum section, as well as patch notes for those specific heroes will be posted there. In addition, starting off, they're going to have limited testing hours for this mode, just like they have with many other things to gauge activity. It also has the same requirement as ranked of 50 games played to be able to queue there. They've also now added commends to the game, something people have been asking for a very long time. I am one of those people because I always enjoy giving a thumbs up or whatever commendation to whoever carried me through the game at the end of it. There will also be a place on your profile now that shows how many commends you've received on each hero. There's a new character shader to improve player visibility in all areas of the map and experiment with more stylized rendering of different character models. There's now sequential kill streak music cues, and now that they have added ranked, they have added an indication of the game mode within match history. So you'll be able to see if it's just a normal match or a ranked match or Hero Labs. Speaking of ranked, there's now a ranked badge added to your profile on the watch page, as well as a rank history tab on your profile that only you privately can see, where you can click on previous ranks to view the rank report summary for that interval of ranked. Flex slots are constantly being experimented with from patch to patch, and they have added a new requirement to that final slot of the shrines, which previously was just one shrine to get that last flex slot, but now both shrines have to be down. That won't affect games that are just snowballs, but it does definitely make it harder for those close games where you feel like, oh, I could probably push one shrine down but wouldn't be able to get that second one, so it's going to make that last slot a little bit harder to get. They've tweaked soul orbs as well coming out of troopers, where there is now a 90 millisecond buffer to allow the servers to do a better calculation on who shot the orb first, which hopefully will minimize latency advantages for denying. I'm very excited about that because I swear sometimes I shoot it as fast as possible and then somehow they still get it. They've also changed the values of how much souls you get from 50-50 to 60-40, meaning when you kill the trooper, you get 60% of the souls, and when you confirm it, you get 40% of the souls. Breakables now spawn at 3 minutes instead of 2 minutes, and the souls from breakables were reduced. Urn has also been changed quite a lot every patch, and this is no exception. They made some massive changes, so make sure you pay attention. What they are calling comeback properties on the Urn now require an 8% net worth lead to kick in. So it's not just whoever is barely ahead, but 8% ahead. The pickup locations are the same, however, drop-off locations have changed if one team is in the lead. If there is a lead, the drop-off location is going to be closer to the losing team's side. The minimap is still going to show where that location is, as well as an indicator that's going to help you find it. Moving this to the losing team side is huge. I know they are really trying to make this Urn a comeback mechanic, but right now it has still felt like it's just the winning team's snowball mechanic. So hopefully putting it on that losing team side, making it easier to take it and run back to your side of the map, is going to help that be more successful even if you are down on souls already. If the Urn has not been delivered within 90 seconds of pickup time, it now drains your health for 1% of your max HP per second, and regen is disabled during that. This prevents people from just going back into their spawn and holding it and waiting out the other team from camping the Urn spot. Speaking of camping Urn, whenever it is dropped after 90 seconds of pickup time, it starts to move back to its spawn and cannot be picked up by the same team for 12 seconds. There's also now increased speed that the Urn is walking back. Lots of changes with Guardians and Walkers as well. Guardians' attack range requirement was changed from 20 meters to require that you are above the ramp on high ground. Guardians resist versus Troopers was changed from starting at 70% and ending at 30 to starting at 60% and ending at 35%. Guardians now have a resist versus players starting at 40% and ending at 35% at 8 minutes. So those first 8 minutes is going to be a little bit tankier from people just burning the Guardians. seconds. Walkers also now have a resist versus both troopers and players, starting at 60% and ending at 30% at 14 minutes. So again, being tankier than they previously were, especially up until that 14-minute mark, just making burning through lanes a little bit more difficult. Troopers now gain 40% spirit resist gradually over 25 minutes and jumps to 70% at 50 minutes. This makes troopers harder to ignore, I would say, because they can't be farmed quite as easily. The 70-second respawn timer now happens at 30 minutes instead of 35, again making it more and more punishing to die earlier. There's now a respawn curve that goes from 70 seconds to 75 seconds over 30 to 40 minutes. So by the time you're at 40 minutes, you have 75-second respawns. Base Guardians and Shrines no longer have out of combat regen. Parry was buffed as the active window was increased from 0.7 to 0.75 seconds, and the cooldown was reduced from 5 to 4.5 seconds. Lasts longer and it's up more often. The medic troopers were also updated as they now have 2 charges, with the time between casts being 6 seconds. It also does not consume a charge when healing other troopers. Because it has 2 charges now and does not use a charge when healing the troopers, its cooldown was increased from 6 seconds to 35 seconds. Now jumping straight into items, starting out with weapon items. For the nerfs, we have Restorative Shot, Monster Rounds, High Velocity Magazine, Melee Charge, Long Range, Active Reload, Mystic Shot, Sharpshooter, and Titanic Magazine. For buffs, we have Rapid Rounds, High Velocity Magazine, Long Range, Active Reload, Mystic Shot, Burst Fire, Sharpshooter, Tesla Bullets, Titanic Magazine, Lucky Shot, and Vampiric Burst. What you'll notice in these weapon items, as well as the ones that we're going to go through in Vitality and Spirit, is that a lot of items got what I would call nerfs and buffs, but really they're just changing the function of these items. Things like Sharpshooter no longer granting plus 20% ammo, but now has a minus 20% reload time. So fundamentally changing a little bit of what each of these items do. A notable buff in that group being High Velocity Magazine, as its bullet shield health was increased and weapon damage was increased, so definitely an item to look out for early on, as well as Tesla Bullets having its proc cooldown now affected by cooldown reduction, so it can proc more and more often if you are also building cooldown reduction. For Vitality nerfs, we have Extra Regen, Enduring Speed, Majestic Leap, Rescue Beam, Soul Rebirth, Leech, Phantom Strike, Unstoppable, and Colossus. A couple of massive nerfs in the section. We have Majestic Leap, whose cooldown was increased from 26 to 45 seconds, as well as now getting shot in the air, disabling the drop down ability in Majestic Leap. Soul Rebirth also no longer grants 15% cooldown reduction, and its cooldown was increased from 212 seconds to 240. As far as buffs go, we have Extra Stamina, Extra Health, Reactive Barrier, Fortitude, Veil Walker, Superior Stamina, Siphon Bullets, Leech, Phantom Strike, and Unstoppable. For Spirit item nerfs, we have Mystic Reach, Slowing Hex, Duration Extender, Bullet Resist Shredder, Surge of Power, Mystic Slow, Improved Burst, Ethereal Shift, Escalating Exposure, and Mystic Reverb. The one that catches my eye being Mystic Reverb, as Slow now only affects the primary target. As a Kelvin player, I'm pretty sad about that. For buffs, we have Mystic Reach, Ammo Scavenger, Improved Cooldown, Withering Whip, Cold Front, Duration Extender, Bullet Resist Shredder, Surge of Power, Improved Reach, Mystic Slow, Superior Cooldown, Superior Duration, Ethereal Shift, Improved Spirit, and Boundless Spirit. Now getting right into the hero section, starting off with Abrams, we have a couple of nerfs, as melee attack rate was reduced by 15%, so he is attacking you slower with his melees, and his gun fall-off damage starts at 20 meters instead of 22. Bebop with a mix of buffs and nerfs. As far as buffs go, bullet damage growth increased from 0.29 to 0.33, now gains 1% spirit resist per boon, and Hook now returns troopers 75% faster than normal. For nerfs, he no longer gains 1% bullet resist per boon, and a big one, Sticky Bomb, now loses 20% of your stacks on death. So it is scaling with the amount of stacks you have, making it harder and harder to snowball. Grey Talon was only buffed this patch, which makes sense since he was heavily nerfed in the last ones. Base regen was increased from 2 to 2.5. Gun spirit scaling was increased from 0.1 to 0.13. Move speed now scales with spirit power again, and Rain of Arrows strafe speed with stamina was increased by 30%. The big one to me being that move speed now scaling with spirit power again. Infernus was nerfed as Afterburn tier 1 was reduced from 30% to 25%. Infernus has been extremely strong, I feel like, in my ranked games recently. Just a safe pick for anyone, especially with his ult, as well as just farming ability and damage output. He's pretty crazy. For IV buffs, we have base bullet damage increased from 4.5 to 5, and for nerfs, bullet damage growth was reduced from 0.39 to 0.36, and airdrop slow was reduced from 35% to 30. I feel like the one nerf I would like to see on IV right now is with airdrop, but more so it's the silence that comes with the tier 3 being reduced. I feel like it lasts way too long right now. Kelvin was nerfed, and yes, I am sad about it. Arctic Beam slow was reduced again from 50% to 40%, which I don't mind because I don't think Arctic Beam needs to be that strong to begin with. Frost Grenades tier 2 heal was reduced from 145 to 125. Pretty sad about that one. And Frozen Shelter was fixed, not freezing the weakened patron. For Lady Geist buffs, Malice tier 2 now also increases damage amp by 7%, and Malice no longer causes you to unzoom on cast. For nerfs, Malice slow was reduced from 20% to 15%. Malice's debuff duration was reduced from 13 to 9, and Malice's damage amp was reduced from 15% to 8%. McGinnis with a lot of tweaks. For buffs, the gun spin decay rate was improved from 0.65 to 0.25. Mini turret's cooldown was reduced from 24 seconds to 18 seconds. Mini turret spirit resist was increased from 60% to 80%, and heavy barrage's tier 2 cooldown was improved from 47 seconds to 50 seconds. For nerfs, spectral wall slow was reduced from 25% to 20%. Tier 1 damage amp was reduced from 25% to 15%. Heavy barrage's minimum range was increased from 6 meters to 7 meters, and its cooldown was increased from 106 to 140, which is great because I felt like the cooldown was way too short recently. Heavy barrage's tier 1 slow was also reduced from 35% to 30%. Mirage had a bunch of buffs, as Fire Scarab's tier 3 max health steal was increased from plus 70 to plus 80. Jin's Mark tier 3 cooldown between multipliers was improved from 0.5 seconds to 0.75. Traveler's fire rate was increased from 20% to 30%. Traveler's tier 2 cooldown reduction was improved from minus 30 to minus 40. And a really big one, Traveler's tier 3 now grants unstoppable for 3 seconds on arrival, really just making Traveler a lot more powerful, which makes sense because it's been kind of underwhelming to me. And Krill with a very big buff, as they now have 20% headshot crit reduction. And Burrow's bullet and spear resist now persist while spinning out of the burrow. Paradox taking a lot of buffs as well, with one really big one that we're going to hit at the end. Pulse grenade pulses are now expressed as a duration rather than a fixed pulse count, which means that it works with any sort of duration extender. Pulse grenades tier 1 was changed from +1 pulse to 0.8 second duration, keeping in line with that new change. Tier 2 was improved from -7.5 seconds to -8 seconds. Kinetic Carbine tier 2 was improved from -9.5 second cooldown to -10 seconds. Carbine shots cannot miss due to evasion. It can now pierce breakables, and the big one, it now does 15% more damage on a headshot, making those sniper builds more viable. 7's buffs only really affect Stormcloud, as the expand time was reduced from 3 seconds to 2 seconds, and the range was increased from 25 meters to 30 meters. However, he also got nerfs, as Lightning Ball's cooldown was increased from 23 seconds to 26. The radius was reduced from 4 to 3.5 meters. Tier 2 slow was reduced from 40% to 35%, and his move speed was reduced from 7.3 to 7.1. Hopefully trying to address a little bit of that just farming 7 build, where he just sprints around the map, bams lightning balls, and ends up 20k souls over everyone. And some answered prayers finally, as SHIV was nerfed. Base speed was reduced from 7.3 to 7. Serradian Knives collision radius was reduced by 20%. Bloodletting cooldown increased from 21 seconds to 50 seconds. Tier 2 cooldown was increased from 4.75 seconds to 25 seconds, with the final cooldown change from 16.25 to 25 seconds. That keeping in line with that nerf from above, where the cooldown is no longer 21 seconds, but instead 50. Bloodletting's duration was increased from 10 seconds to 13 seconds. Incoming damage deferred was reduced from 30 to 22%. Tier 1 was changed from +8% incoming damage deferred instead of +5 seconds of duration. Killing Blow's range was reduced from 20 meters to 13 meters. Killing Blow's rage build-up per heavy melee was reduced from 3.5 to 2.75. Its buffer duration was reduced from 10 seconds to 9 seconds, and the rage build-up versus creeps was reduced by 50%. On the flip side, Vindicta is going to be very strong this patch with a lot of buffs. Gun cycle time was improved from 0.26 seconds to 0.22. Bullet damage growth per boon increased from 0.55 to 0.65. Fire rate now scales with spirit power. A sleeper update there. I think that is going to be crazy as people build spirit power and get a ton of fire rate on Vindicta. Assassinate no longer splits to allies. Flight duration was increased from 8 seconds to 12 seconds. Tier 2 duration was increased from +6 to +8. Assassinate's bullet radius was increased from 3 to 4, making it easier to hit people. The scope's zoom level can now be cycled with right click, and the scope is automatically canceled now when paradoxical swap hits you. For Viscous, his buff was that bullet damage growth per boon was increased from 0.86 to 0.9. However, for nerfs, bullet damage was reduced from 12 to 11. Splatter's tier 2 was reduced from +60 to +50, and Goo Ball Spirit Resist was reduced from 70 to 60%. Warden mostly getting buffed. He's also going to be very strong in this patch, as Alchemical Flask weapon damage duration was increased from 6 to 7 seconds. Binding Word escape time was reduced from 2.9 seconds to 2.8, and its escape range was increased from 18.5 to 19. Overall, making it harder to get away. And a big one, Last Stand's tier 3 now also grants you unstoppable during the 2-second channel of your ult. For Wraith, the buff that she got was Telekinesis tier 1 cooldown improved from -28 to -30. However, on nerfs, Cartrix's base damage was reduced from 80 to 70, and its cooldown was increased from 0.5 to 0.65. Telekinesis had its cooldown increased from 95 seconds to 100 seconds. And finally, for Yamato, Shadow Transformation's cooldown was reduced from 106 to 90 seconds. Not that I think that was really necessary, and just a bunch of fixes after that. And that is all we have for today, guys. Let me know what you think about this patch. This is Deadlock Intel. I'll catch you later.